Hello, welcome to Davita's Stampin' Spot. It's 8:02 and it's my own fault tonight. I got home, started playing with the technique I wanted to share tonight, played a little too long, looked at the clock and realized, oh my gosh, I got to clear my desk off so I could share this with you tonight. I taught the black ice technique at my technique and funfold class last Friday, and we had a lot of fun with it. And while we were doing it, one of my gals, Marilyn, that comes to class, said, you know, I remember something similar, and this is what I think we did. So after we played with it a little bit during class, I decided it would be fun to share that with you. And then as I got to playing tonight, I tweaked it a little bit more. So some different ideas that I want to share with you, and hopefully it will inspire you to do a little playing sometime this week with your Stampin' supplies. So I'm checking to see if it shows up. Hoping we're live. We're live. Good deal. All right, I'm going to switch the camera around so we can start stamping. All right, so this is a sample of the black ice technique. So see how shiny it is? So first I'm going to show you how to do that. And then I'm going to tweak it a little bit. So if you'll give me a hello, let me know that you're watching tonight. That would be awesome. And I will see if I can get comments to show up. It's always kind of a guessing game as to whether it will show up. So I'm moving my screen around here just a little bit. So hopefully I can see comments. All right, so let's show you the basics of the black ice technique. So the first thing you want to do is you want to cut some of our foil. And of course, we have some different colors that you can use. In the class, I gave them the option of using copper or silver or gold. Tonight, I just pulled out some copper, so we're going to play with copper tonight. You don't want fingerprints, so be careful. You'll notice I took just a small amount of adhesive to have it stick to my paper, because as you're doing these things, you don't want your paper moving around. Hey, Julie, thanks for joining me. All right, so this is Stazon ink, and what you're going to do is just lightly rub it along. Now, for those of us, and I'm one of those that tend to have a heavy hand, you have to be ever so light so that you just get a light amount. And you kind of want darker on the edges more than anything. So that's my first step here. Like I said, you're just adding just a little bit of dark. I am going to move this over. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to get this so I can see comments plus see what I'm doing tonight. It's just not wanting to work. All right, so Stazon. Now I'm going to grab my stamp, and I chose to use the flower image for this one from the Quiet Meadow stamp set. Oh, I was going to change it up this time. Thought I would try this little flower. Let me swap this out a second. You would think if I'd been up here playing for 2 hours, I would have had this all figured out, but I just kept changing my mind. Do you guys ever do that when you're crafting? Change your mind, you're stamping, and then you go, oh wait, hey, let's try this. Oh wait, let's try this. Now, Stazon ink and foil, you're going to slip if you're not careful. So when you go to do this, part of the reason you want your paper taped down is you don't want your paper sliding, because then your stamped image is going to slide. All right, now you'll notice I went in an angle again, like I always do, and I will put in there. All right, now you need to let it set and dry. So fortunately, I got a double piece tonight, so I'm going to set that off to the side. So let me show you another idea. So that one, I drug the black across it. So then the other night at class, I thought, well, I wonder what it would look like if I didn't do the black. So I did it without. So I'll show you a sample of that. Now I'm going to mix it up, and instead of using the Stazon, I'm going to switch to the black Versamark. And I know I'm mixing this up, but the reason I'm doing it is because the stamps need to dry, or the stamped images need to dry, or it'll mess up the technique, okay? So I am going to clean my stamp. With Stazon, you know, you're going to need to use your Stazon cleaner. So I'm going to rub that on my flower here. It does work, but I will tell you, if you're using polymer especially, you are not going to probably get it all off. So you just need to kind of accept that. So if you're an OCD type that you don't want black on your stamp, a particular stamp, don't use Stazon on it, because especially if it's a polymer. Now the craft, or the oh, come on, red rubber, it cleans off really nicely. But I would say with the polymer, you're going to have a really hard time getting it off. Okay, so this one, I think I'm going to use the barn again. It's probably my favorite. And the ladies at class the other night really liked the barn as well. And I say that, and now, where did it go? Ah, here it is, underneath my paper. All right, so instead of using the black Stazon this time, I'm going to use my Versamark. Remember, our Versamark works just like glue. So what it's doing is it's making my stamp, oops, sorry, I was off screen. I was using my Versamark and just inking up my barn, okay? So I'm going to stamp it. And you probably saw that my stamped image moved around just a little bit. So you've got to be really careful with it. Now this time I'm going to use black embossing powder to get the image of my barn on my paper. I did not use the embossing buddy because we're actually going to have embossing powder all over this by the time we're done. All right. So some of the things I was tweaking tonight and playing with that made me late is I did the first thing like this, and I'm going to heat it up. So my barn is stamped with Versamark on this one, and then black embossing powder. You know, after 20 plus years, this is probably still my most favorite technique. I'm going to go all around the barn. All right. And I did get a little heavy with the ink because I should be able to see windows over here, but you can't see it. All right, so I'm going to set that back aside, and we're going to go back to, I forgot to adhere this down. Hang on. Okay, we're going to go back to this one. I am going to heat it up just, well, let's see. Okay, good, we're dry. I don't know why the lighting is so weird tonight. Maybe it's just because I'm doing the coppery foil shiny paper. All right, so we've stamped it and Stazon. Now what we're going to do, now remember this is your basic black ice technique. We're going to take the Versamark and we're going to drag across this. We learned the other night, you don't want to drag really hard, because if you do, it's going to make it more shiny, but it's going to look just like the foil paper. So you want to just very lightly do it, so it's almost like bubbles on the paper. Now my Versamark is getting a little dry, I noticed as I was playing tonight, so I'm going to push a little harder than you probably would need to. Your Versamark's probably not as dry as mine is. Then I'm going to grab my clear embossing powder, and we're going to cover the whole thing in clear embossing powder. And I said you didn't want to get fingerprints on this because now your fingerprints would show up. This does take quite a bit of embossing powder, I will say that, because you are sticking embossing powder on the whole piece. For my ladies at class, I did cut the paper about a fourth of an inch bigger than we would need on the card. So you kind of had a place to grab on the edge, because if you're going to use the whole piece, it makes it really hard to find a place to hang on to it. So you can see here, I missed right over here. So this will be the side I cut off, and I can cut off most of that. Now we're going to heat it up. And as you guys know, embossing makes it, we go from sticky to shiny, or sticky to sandy to shiny. So it's going to be shiny now, but it's going to be all bubbly because those bubbles are from the Versamark being dragged across the paper. Yeah, you can see that. And it is so cool in person because it's all bubbly. Bubbly, bubbly. It just looks so cool. So this is your basic technique. So you drag the Stazon across it to get a little bit of a black streak. Then you stamp your image and make sure that gets nice and dry. Then you drag the embossing, the Versamark over it. Going back and getting all my spots. All right. Now I'm hoping, can you guys see that? Look at all those bubbles. Isn't that cool? So in class the other night, we did, this is my first one I did before we even did the class. See how I drug the black too much? And so I got really black lines in it, and I really, really wasn't happy with that. So then I tried again, and I got this one, and I was happier with it. You see a little bit of the black, but I drug a little too hard this time. So I had some solid, but I also had some bumps, and I did the whole thing in black. The other card I let the ladies do that I did my sample was this one. So it's all shiny and bubbly. Again, I missed a few spots. This was kind of my learning curve. So I added some Rimba just to give it a little boost there. Well, as we were doing this, one of the gals said, well, you know, you can color. So, and I went ahead and did this one ahead of time, and I'm glad I did because it looks better than the one I did here live. I'm going to take my alcohol blends and color. At the class, we tried just coloring on the Stazon, but the Stazon is not the best ink to use when you're coloring with blends. You need to use the Memento. So I'm going to take the side of my marker because I don't want to ruin my tip, and I'm just going to color the barn. You will get just a little bit of black on your marker, but if you take it and rub it on your paper, it will come off. Okay, so I colored the whole barn. So let me grab this paper here. You'll see there's a tiny bit of black in it, but I got rid of most of it. I would say 95, almost 100% of the black. So let me show you what happens when you color it and then drag the Versamark across it. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Beautiful, beautiful. Now, I was just playing with this because I wasn't sure how it was going to work. I wish I'd have stamped trees or something here because it's kind of plain, but it still turned out pretty cool, I thought. Then I added some ribbon. So I colored like that. And then I thought, well, what if okay, here, I'm getting ahead of myself. So here's another one. So I stamped the long flowers, colored them in the Tahitian tide, and I did a little bit of the parakeet. I did learn that you need to use a darker color than you really thought, than you think you should, because it doesn't show up quite as well. And then I ran the Versamark across it with all the powder and heated it up. So then I thought, well, what happens if I add colored ink? So this one here, I did the Versamark just like this one with the black and colored the barn. Then I stamped the trees in Mossy Meadow and the mountains in Starry Sky, and then did the Versamark over the top. And then I tried the Sending Smiles daisies. And I really like this one. The only thing I wasn't real crazy about was my centers, because that's yellow on the copper, it didn't work too well. So I think I'd try that probably in silver or something if I was going to do it again. And then this one, I thought it'd be fun to do a masculine. So I did the bear. He almost looks reddish because of the copper paper. I stamped him in early espresso. Look how much that lightened it up. And if I put it behind the black and then mount that on the blue paper, let's see. Won't that look cool? So I would love, love, love for you to consider this technique, either the basic one with the black and the black stripes, or coloring it a little bit. Again, keep in mind you need your blends, your alcohol-based markers if you're going to color, and make sure you emboss it first. I did get quite a bit of black on my markers when they colored over the Stazon. And then there's all these others where I added color. So I'll try and lay these out. I would love, love, love for you to share this. I'm going to have a contest this week. If you share this with some of your crafty friends, either send me a Facebook message, put it on the post below here, or email me, text me, let me know that you shared it. And everybody that shares this week is going to be in the drawing for a gift from me. So, oh boy, that's really bright. Let's see, well, that, there we go. That takes it away a little bit. So there's a few of the different embossed black ice techniques that are ideas that I hope you enjoyed seeing tonight. We had so much fun at technique class the other night. And now I'm off camera again. It is so shiny, it's hard to get a picture. Thank you so much for joining me. If you have any questions, shoot me an email. If you share, make sure you tell me that you shared it with some of your friends and be in the drawing for a gift this week. Have a wonderful week. I'll see you next Monday at 8. Thanks.